I wasn't going to ask about this, but because I didn't know, but since you mentioned this earlier, I kind of have to ask you about it. I forgot that you were the analyst on the Facebook IPO.
Yeah.
But I do remember at the time when we were at MS, that was like the big whale bake off. That was like the account that Michael Grimes, who, for people who don't know, is like one of the best tech bankers of our time and was the head of our group. That was like the account that we had to win at
Yeah.
all costs. Right. And if I remember correctly, we even staffed, did we have 2 analysts
Yeah.
on that
Every
account?
year we'd have a first year and second year on the account.
Which is not normal because usually you just have 1 analyst, but this account has so much work on it that we put 2 analysts on it. And obviously we eventually did win. We were lead left,
We
right, on
were.
that.
Yeah.
And so we were the primary book runner, which is a huge win. And also Michael is known for just being fanatical about, like, he will do literally anything necessary to win a deal. I mean, like anything legal, obviously, but like he will do anything. Like there's crazy stories about like him driving Uber, moonlighting as an Uber driver to win the Uber IPO, right? Or him being like one of the top players on, was it Farmville or Cafeville or
Zynga.
something
Yeah.
to
Yeah. Yeah.
win
Yeah.
the Zynga IPO. I don't know if he did. I know he was probably like on Facebook all the time using the product, but talk about that experience, like working with Michael so closely, and also like what it was like to work on really was still one of the most marquee tech IPOs of all time.
Yeah. So I was mainly focused on it in my second year as an analyst. And so at that point, I wasn't recruiting. I wasn't, I had already had my offer at
Thankfully,
TPG. So I was like, I could just do the job and not necessarily think about having to go find a new
that
one.
would have been not manageable, I
Yeah,
feel
that's
like.
that's probably right. So I was on it for my second year. It was really intense. When I look back, it was like a 7-year process for Michael Grimes to prepare for and win the Facebook IPO. He just knew that was what he had to do. So he was tracking every interaction he had with Facebook, with Mark, with Sheryl Sandberg. David Ebersman was the CFO at the time when I was working on the account. They had some really interesting problems, not problems, but like high class problems. They didn't need to raise capital by the time they came to go public because they were already generating cash. So interesting capital markets problems that most companies don't have to deal with. And if you remember, to your point on Zynga and others like LinkedIn, we worked on, as a team, as a group, Morgan Stanley worked on some really elite internet IPOs. To be honest, it felt like part of that was all just building up to making sure that we won the
Mm,
Facebook IPO.
right.
And so we leveraged a bunch of the learnings from all of those to inform the work we did on Facebook. It was really intense. We worked on a ton of material for them. Every opportunity to connect with them, we were sharing information. Michael really wanted to be the trusted advisor that they picked up the phone and called when they had questions about how to deal with things. And he was. They meaning Cheryl and Mark and others, they would call him and ask him for advice on things that were totally not related to banking advisory, which was really unique. And having the opportunity to see that was really valuable for me because he really embraced his role as an advisor in all respects, not just like, hey, I want to win the Facebook IPO, I'm going to draft the prospectus in advance for you. He really wanted them to call him for whatever advice they needed.
Mm,
And he positioned it that way. And then all of the work we did was super fascinating. Like, I learned so much about capital markets mechanics, liquidity. How do you take a company public that doesn't need to raise capital? How do you tell that story? We actually did a credit facility that all the banks were clamoring over. Facebook ended up wanting to get a credit facility in place before their IPO. So we worked on that. I also, during that time, I built a model around, if you raise this much capital, here's how it can trickle out into the market and here's how you create float. And because I'd worked so intensely on that for so many weeks, I was actually taken to the meeting where they presented it to the CFO of Facebook, and I got to present a portion of it. And so those, like,
wow.
really special kind of rare opportunities are times to just like fully embrace the thing you're doing and how important it is. And I'll never forget, I was so nervous going into that meeting, but it was like a small conference room at the Facebook headquarters, but it was so cool. It was so cool to just be a part of that. And again, so much of what I learned on that, we spent a bunch of time on like Chinese internet names as benchmarks for, what was happening at Facebook. So much of what I learned is still relevant to things I work on now.
That is amazing that they let an analyst present at a meeting for such an important account, because I don't think that usually
No.
happens, right? I mean, even at like smaller, less important meetings, analysts usually just carry the books, if you even get to go at all, and then you sit there and listen and take notes or whatever. So for them to let you present, one, you must have been an amazing analyst because they trusted you enough to do that. But also it says a lot about, I think, the senior team there, just, giving their younger team members the opportunity to learn and grow and kind of step up to the plate.
Yeah, totally. No, I was very lucky to do that. And the other thing I would say that I remember so distinctly from the way Michael worked was we probably spent 3 extra cycles on any deck that we were going to take into a meeting with Cheryl or Mark or David or any of the other pitches that we did with Michael. And what was I just remember so distinctly, I was in a meeting where I didn't say a word, I was just watching, but we would turn the page, we had these like 11 by 17 books, right? So we would like turn the big pages,
Yeah.
right? And I just remember there was like a 6 or 7 slide series where every time we would go through something on a page, the Facebook folks would ask a question and Michael would go, "If you turn to the next page, I'll answer that." And it was like boom, boom, boom. Like he was so good at not just organizing the information, thinking through how the conversation might go. He would like we would practice. We would like put the deck together. He would like go through it, present it, think through it, and then he'd be like, "Let's rearrange this. Let's change this chart so it looks more like this." Like he was so good at anticipating what they would think about and want to go to next, and then he would nail it on the next page. And it was just like, man, like the amount of it's not appreciated when you get there. Like when you get there, it's almost like a TED talk. It's like, wow, this is just like so good. But you don't appreciate how much extra prep it takes to do that. And I think about that now. Like we get in front of our executive leadership at ServiceNow when we're pitching acquisitions to them, and I think really hard as much as I can if I have time to do so. Like if I tell them this data point, if I go through this part of the thesis, what are they going to think about or what are they going to ask? And can I figure out how to anticipate that and either pre-answer it or put it on the next page or have it somewhere in the appendix like ready in case I have to jump to it? Right? Those little things really matter and are really hard to do right. And to observe that, to work on Facebook and to learn that stuff, I think has been very valuable for me career-wise.
That's also why they trust him so much, because he anticipates all of their questions. He already knows what they're, thinking about
Yeah.
or what they're going to be worried about. And man, that's just like whenever you get the opportunity, I certainly didn't appreciate it at the time. I feel like, at least to the degree that I should have. When you get the opportunity to work around or for someone who is like considered one of the best at their craft, in whatever field it may be, like really try to watch them closely and see how they go about things, right? And behind every single one of these super successful people, like people just see like the success and, oh my God, they're, head of tech banking at, Morgan Stanley. Oh, they make so much money, this and that. But it's like the amount of, yes, you have to be like intelligent, of course, but it's not really, there are a lot of intelligent people out there.
Yes.
But it's like the amount of hard work and preparation that they put into their craft is what really sets them apart from other people. And like the attention to detail, and then also just like his willingness to go really above and beyond for his clients.
Yeah, when we were there, you may remember this, there was like a survey that came out and it was like top technology executives in Silicon Valley. And he was like number 2 or number 3 on that list. And everyone kind of looked at that and went like he was being compared to, like senior C-level executives at like HP or, Intel or other big tech companies. And it was like, how is this investment banker, on this list? And the reason, again, having now kind of grown up a little bit, the reason was he just took his role as an advisor so seriously that he was always ready. Like, I think this is so important. Being a trusted advisor is in part being ready to talk about whatever the client is wanting to talk about, is worried about, and being prepared and being able to say, yes, I've thought about that. Let me take you through, what I'm thinking about, and let me come back to you with more if I need to. And so I'm guessing that, again, like he probably was doing 100% of the thinking in order to be ready for whatever 5%, whatever 1%, Mark or Cheryl or David or any of his other clients were wanting to ask about. And as a result, he just was always prepared. And so why wouldn't they put his phone number in their phone and just put him in their favorites and say, when I need to talk to someone who I know is really thinking about this stuff for me, I'm just going to call him. And there's huge lessons in that. And he's obviously been very successful as a result.
And it's not easy because for Mark and for Cheryl, they are CEO and COO of Facebook. So that's all they have to think about.
Yes.
All day, every day, they're thinking about how to make Facebook better 24/7. For Michael, he has other clients and other accounts that he's also doing the same thing for, but at the same time, he has to be able to come up with insights that are actually useful or things that Mark and Cheryl haven't thought about themselves about their own business. It's like you having to know someone else's business just as well or sometimes better than they do is like, I don't even know how you do it, to be honest, as I'm saying that out loud. Like I don't even know how it's possible, but that's kind of what the best investment bankers have to do. And they definitely that's how they earn whatever they're worth,
Yeah.
you know? Like
I do think
it's
I do think to your point on, Michael like became an Uber driver when he went to pitch for the Uber IPO. That's kind of what it takes. If you really want to embrace understanding a business, understanding like what really matters, right? URM, what really matters. If you really want to do that as an investor, as an advisor, like go immerse yourself in what that business really is. Like I was,
yeah.
when I was at the hedge fund in Chicago and then when I was at Waymo, I really wanted to know what kind of what the experience of a driver was for Uber and Lyft because we were, wanting to get into ride hailing with self-driving cars. And there
Mm,
was a period of time where I signed up to be a Lyft driver because I was
mm,
like, maybe what Michael was doing was really insightful. And like, if I have the ability to say, here's how it works, here's my experience with it, here are the economics that actually flow through. I'm not just going to
yeah.
rely on what I read from public disclosures. Maybe I'll have more insights. Maybe I'll have more to say. And it was like it really. I think it's really valuable to do that.
Yeah, because most of his competitors are, let's say other managing directors making a ton of money, super busy, have a wife, have kids, like they're not spending their evenings doing something like driving Ubers, which most people will probably think like I'm too good for this. And so they're basing a lot of their insights on maybe equity research reports they're reading or just other people's thoughts and opinion. And none of that is like original thought, right? You're just rehashing what other people are thinking versus him driving Uber himself, he can come up with original thoughts of like, what needs to be done differently or what could be better or how the product could be improved. I was watching a interview from Tony Su, the CEO of DoorDash, and to this day, I think every DoorDash employee has to, I think maybe spend, I don't know, a day or a week or something out of the year delivering DoorDash,
Yeah.
right? Just every single person in the business, all the way up to Sisu. And that's just like, you just don't get the same level of insights if you're not actually using the product, right?
Yeah. Well, and speaking to like embracing the business that you're getting into, like Tony is a great example. He very intentionally went and worked at FedEx, right? In order to understand the complexity of a logistics business before
Mm.
building DoorDash. Like what a fascinating like
I didn't even know
instinct.
that.
Yeah, he like there was, a podcast where he talked about his background and I'm pretty sure it was FedEx. I don't think it was UPS, but he went into the business and he was like, I wanted to understand how hard it really is to do logistics. And when you think about DoorDash, you're like, food delivery. But at the end of the day, that business is really logistics. It's really getting drivers to go pick up food, to drop off at somebody's place, and then to get the economics right. And so I think there's just so much there that I appreciate. And when you immerse yourself in some of these things, you really have it's important to separate signals from noise, but it's important to really acknowledge like you understand what the business really is, what it really does, what it's really selling, how it really works. Those things are
Yeah,
so important.
absolutely. Okay, man, I could keep going,
Yeah.
but